Another day has rolled by. It's 10/21. I don't know. It could still be March.
We are having some beautiful fall weather.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't affect you because you're not in the same general area as us. But
I was outside painting yesterday.
yeah, did you get some like zen?
It was really nice because it was just the right temperature. And the sun was out, but it was kind of overcast, so it wasn't like direct beating sunlight, but it was really bright outside.
Do you feel like you got into like the Karate Kid thing where you learned some?
Yeah, I definitely am feeling the arthritis and the.
I don't think that's what the Karate Kid thing was. Well, if arthritis cripples your arms and fingers and even your legs, it won't matter in the future because you won't need them, at least to get where you're going. Because
So we got so many stories about that this week.
once again, he said it. He got in trouble for saying it before, but he's doubling down.
Elon Musk says that Tesla will release a beta version of its quote-unquote full self-driving feature next week to some drivers. It probably won't make the cars fully autonomous. Some people ask, why are we constantly abusing Tesla and making fun of them? Well, because the full self-driving feature is not actually full self-driving. I guess if you're fourth dimensionally challenged, the full self-driving feature means full self-driving. But currently where we are today, 10/21 of 2020, full self-driving does not actually mean full self-driving. It's just a form of driver assist.
You know, my bank account that's accruing like 0.02% interest, if you think of that on the same level, does have millions of dollars in it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know who gets it. It's rolling out to what he described as cautious and like
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what the words were.
A select group of beta users that are careful and.
Yeah, he said they were really good drivers. I don't know what that's based on.
The terabytes and terabytes
Expert.
of video. The expert and careful categorization is based on probably petabytes of video that have been collected from their vehicles over the lifetime of the vehicle.
He said it's going to be profound. This is the $8,000. Now, so last week we talked about the butt dialing. That was $5,000. This is $8,000.
That was the upgrade. They already had some of the features.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if you're lucky, maybe you'll get this. It's supposedly not only going to be a lot better at parking lots, but it can also take exits. I thought it already could do that.
I thought it could too.
And do a lot of other like non-highway activities. But we'll see. I'm sure there'll be so many stories about people abusing that.
The next story should be the one about the signs, but okay.
Oh, I think that's in another section.
Oh no!
I think that's in. I don't remember where that is.
It might be in nonsense.
Did I miss it?
I think it's in nonsense. We got an amazing Tesla story for you coming in nonsense on Friday.
But this one is also,
or maybe later. I don't know.
This is also nonsensical.
Yeah,
because when you see the details about this new contender, then it kind of makes a little more sense. But it's juvenile.
Elon Musk tweets the Model S will be priced at $69,420 because he's a child, according to TechCrunch.
You see, 69 is a sex act, and 420 means cannabis.
Well, okay, so there were some other headlines that said this is the second Tesla price cut in a week, and it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, I guess that's technically true, but that's not why they did it. It's because there's a competing car that was going to be $69,900.
The Lucid.
Yeah. And so he's like, all right, we're going to undercut the Lucid.
The Lucid is also purported to be lighter and faster than the Tesla. Which, at what point, I mean, I'm all for fast cars, but these electric cars are going to get real crazy.
Yeah.
If they're fighting a performance war, because it was already in the twos, right? For 0 to 60.
Yeah.
1 second 0 to 60, that would be something to see.
At that point, don't you run a danger of like ripping the asphalt off of the substrate?
Well, you gotta, the tires would have to be slick enough to, you gotta get that bond with the pavement.
Oh yeah.
So
Have you seen the like some of the pictures of the highway where like a truck locked up its brakes and then it like dug into the pavement and there's just craters where like the pavement built up like it was like somebody trying to stop on a long rug.
But these things are so light.
Yeah, that's true.
What's going to happen is you're going to stomp it, and the tail is just going to start, fishing around. You're going to go in the ditch. That's what's going to happen, and then it's going to burst into flames because that's what they do.
All that lithium.
That's not the only thing that Musk is working on. Musk, and I got to wonder because we've seen Google and Microsoft, and I think Facebook as well. Their employees were not fans of the military contracts.
Yeah.
You think we'll see that from SpaceX?
Probably.
I got to think the SpaceX people are more like hardcore engineers than woke.
Yeah.
But there's probably a couple in there, I think.
Pentagon wants Elon Musk to yeet cargo around the planet in an hour. Officials say SpaceX is working on a rocket-based delivery of military supplies around the globe just days after the news that it's developing missile tracking satellites. So the idea is the Pentagon is like, we need this on the ground in Afghanistan now, and then the rocket leaves, and it's there.
An hour.
They should really call that division of SpaceX Planet Express.
There might be a copyright issue there. I think Fox would fight them on that. So right now we're using the C-17 planes, and they're was like 400 miles an hour, and the military's like, nope, we got to get there faster than that. So this is an interesting contract. SpaceX will put money into it, and the military will put money into it, but SpaceX owns anything they invent.
That is nice. It's hard to do that with government contracts unless you jump through a lot of hoops.
And
or SpaceX.
And are a billionaire who doesn't need the contract in the first place. I read this headline and I was like, oh, I know what's happening here, because my car actually has a removable roof. And it's got these little clamps, and if you forget those clamps, you're in trouble because it's carbon fiber, and it'll just whoop right off there. And I was like, "Oh, that's probably these people were probably just dumb.
Nope,
they didn't clamp their roof." It turns out the Model Y does not have a removable roof at all. It's not supposed to ever come off.
Brand new Tesla Model Y's roof flies off in first drive home. The good news is the roll cage was still there. The bad news is the roof really did fly off,
and it's made of glass too, so I doubt it survived the fall. They actually didn't go back for it. They just called the cops, and they're like, hey, you might want to look for a roof. The dealership said, oh, either the seal failed or maybe we just forgot it.
Was the dealership responsible for that? I mean,
yeah, they replaced it. They gave them a new one, I think.
A new roof or a new...
I think it was just a new car.
Well.
But if you're driving down the road and you see a Model Y, maybe give them some follow distance.
Especially if it's like, it looks like it's deforming in a weird way. Definitely give it some.
And this, we also should mention, this is brand new. He just drove it off the lot. On their drive home, this happened. So they just turned around and went back to the dealership.
Oh, I had a harrowing experience yesterday. There was an old guy hauling a car like behind his farm truck. It was like one of those like drive up things where you drive the car and it holds the front, but the back of the car is just its wheels on the highway. There was a blowout on the rear driver's side wheel and
of the hauled car.
Hauled car.
Oh, okay.
And the old dude didn't realize it, and it like ripped the bumper off, and debris of tire went into the road. And I was right there when it happened, and it was like very fast moving bumper to bumper traffic basically, and I was like honking trying to get his attention to be like, you need to pull over. And I could hear the car went from blowout to just being on a rim, and he was like, what's wrong with you, are you drunk? And I was like, you need to pull over.
Turning up the Willie Nelson.
Yeah, so I was just, I don't know.
Were you the car immediately behind him?
Yeah.
Man, if you had a dash cam,
yeah,
you should have just drove right into that debris.
I managed to dodge all the debris, but it was just like, oh my God. And he knew something was wrong because he slowed down, but then he sped right back up again, and it was just like for the car behind him, and it was just like, oh, this is not good.
I think the rule is, if the debris comes from the road, like if they kick a rock up, it's not their fault. But if the debris comes from their vehicle, it's their fault.
Wow. Well, he didn't. He had no interest in. He did eventually pull over, but it took like a mile.
Have you checked your tires?
No, I haven't. I probably should.
Yeah, you definitely should. Well, we, like people complain. I compile a lot of the stories, and I don't like Tesla. So if there's a bad Tesla story, I'm putting it in there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna Joe Biden you. I'll do it every time. But one of the things that we've really ragged on Tesla.
Sorry.
What?
There was a meth. No, nothing. Never mind. There was a meth pipe in there. Just it's like, what does that even have to do with anything?
What you're saying is you want even more comments this week. But
an engagement challenge.
One of the things, what kind of pipe was it? That's the engagement challenge. One of the things we bashed Tesla for is that, for a while there, they were bursting into flame.
Yeah.
And, gasoline cars, they do it a lot too. And it turns out maybe it's not just a Tesla problem.
Feds to investigate Chevrolet Bolt EV after 3 fires. So there were 2 fires, and they said, hey, let's look for evidence of more fires. And they immediately found a 3rd one. So they're like, all right, we should probably investigate this. These are situations where the battery pack, which is, under the floor, catches on fire, and it vents into the passenger compartment via the rear seat, I guess, was my takeaway from the article.
I think it's under the rear seats.
Okay.
But, under the rear seats, meaning that when it fails, it kind of comes under into the passenger. So don't worry. It'll just be your kids that burn. Or maybe your dog.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. They got to get a hold of that battery thing now. Like I said, gasoline engines burn a lot. But when people get these fancy new cars, they don't want to see stuff like this. It's going to turn you off, too. Maybe Lucid will figure it out.
I don't know. I think Elon Musk has got a lot more engineering in the battery packs at this point, because they've had every kind of failure that you can possibly have 10 years ago.
Every roasted child is a step forward when it comes to EV technology. Prime Day. Did you order anything on Prime Day?
I looked. There was nothing I wanted.
I picked up a NAS hard drive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that was something. Got a pretty good deal on that. I was pretty underwhelmed by everything else, though. Oh, and I got a really good deal on some trash bags.
Oh, I take that back. I did actually get my mom some. I got her the cat litter thing that automatically cat litters, and I had to get the refill cartridges for that.
Oh, how much did you save on that?
It was like 60% off, but I had to get like the 8-pack, which is like...
That's what I had to do with the garbage bags.
So
I bought a lot of garbage bags, but hey, it's not like I'm not going to use them.
Yeah,
right?
so...
What if I have to kill somebody?
This is the entire next year's worth of garbage bags.
Or one homicide. That's how that works. So anyway, by doing that, we did contribute to the suffering at the Amazon warehouses. I'm aware of it. I'm not going to stop doing it.
See, the crazy thing is I don't care. Like, I'm not hurting for those. I could have waited an extra few days.
So you're saying is the suffering you caused isn't even a big deal, but you're just going to do it anyway.
Bloomberg has the article about Amazon workers say that the Prime Day rush breaks virus safety vows. So we've reported on this a couple of times because the workers were really upset and they were asking for an injunction, and a judge was kind of like, is this true, Amazon? And this was like in March and April.
Yeah.
And really, like, Amazon, and this is a dark future because this is probably where we're all headed. Even like quote unquote white collar workers, this is definitely where we're headed. I definitely know some just very difficult to deal with people in companies and projects where they're like, yes, I would love to monitor you in lots of ways that seem relevant but are not actually relevant. So the Amazon people monitors like how many minutes you're in the bathroom and how many minutes that you're doing productive tasks and how long it takes you to pick and place different things. And they stopped doing that because of, the global situation.
Because of the judge.
Yeah, and the judge being like, what are you doing? Well, they've quietly started doing it again. And in order to meet the metrics, you have to sort of not do extra safety things like, spend extra time in the bathrooms, washing your hands.
You're supposed to have unlimited time to clean yourself and your workspace.
But that's not really true. And Amazon commented in this article, and they said, well, it's only the extreme outliers that we're talking to right now. It's like, well, it's enough to get, the workers' union of sorts upset enough to talk to the judge about it. So...
yeah. They claim it was only the very lowest percentage people, but what if the lowest percentage people are the lowest percentage people because they're just compulsively disinfecting and saving it everyone else in the process?
Janet's full-time job now is to just completely disinfect everything all the time.
She's just stealing all the Clorox wipes from the orders. That's why there's a shortage. Last week we talked about Apple, and they had a little bit of a problem with their recycling contractor because they were
recycling a little too well.
Yeah, they were stealing, but they were doing a really good job at getting those back into the tech world without waste. You got to admit, we had some interesting comments. It was very divided. Some people were like, "Hey, they're saving the environment, so they should just be allowed to do this," and some people were like, "No, they're stealing." Both true, I guess.
Yeah.
But if that really bothered you and turned you off from Apple, this one's going to hurt your feelings even more.
Hidden cameras and secret trackers reveal where Amazon returns end up. So I think this article tried to make a bigger deal out of it than it was. There's a leather backpack that seems like a completely reasonable leather backpack, went straight to the landfill. But some of the other stuff, like the electronics, like the printer, Amazon, I guess, resold those or went somewhere and was resold. So they put these trackers in a bunch of returned products, from home goods to electronics to the leather backpack, and they just tracked where it went. Like, okay, we returned it. Where did it go? Coffee pot?
Yeah, they show these things here, and they interviewed this woman. She looks very upset. She was like, "I could have used that backpack," meaning for free. I could have used that backpack.
Yeah.
But it does kind of destroy your business model. Now, that's not surprising at all. When you return stuff to a Walmart, for example, they will destroy it. Because here's why. Meth heads will go to the Walmart dumpster, take all of the returns out of it, and return them to the Walmart in the next town over. Actually, there was a huge ring of that where we're from. Like, what was it, back in the 2010s?
Yeah.
They made a lot of money doing that. Because some of that clothing is really expensive.
Yeah. Some of the stuff wasn't even returns. It was stuff sent to like the local thing, and yeah, I don't know. It's a mess. There's a couple of YouTube channels that have bought the like Amazon electronics mystery box, because that's the thing you can do too, is like you can just buy returns from the electronics department, and it's just a box of stuff that has a retail value of like say $10,000 that you buy for $1,000, like what that guy does. And there's really impressive stuff in there that the people had returned. So
yeah, they say you can get a skid, and I don't know what they cost, but we should probably get one, unbox it. I'm sure that would get a ton of views.
There's a lot of other channels that beat us to that, and it's just sort of fallen out of vogue now, but sure, why not? I don't know. There was one of those I watched. They got it was when the Threadripper 2000 series launched. They got a gigabyte designator motherboard for the Threadripper 2950X, and it was like, he was in with a whole bunch of other stuff, and it was like, that motherboard is worth what you paid for the entire pallet. And it worked fine.
Yeah. I guess if you got a lot of time on your hands, which a lot of people do right now.
Yeah.
Why not?
Amazon should franchise it. It's like, all right, you can be a return czar. Apply to be a return czar. And you just go through everything and figure out where it should go and be like, this is the most valuable to Amazon if we donate it to a school. This is the most valuable to Amazon if we send it to a landfill.
Yeah, I guess. Now, they did point out, that was a Canadian story, I think, right? And
yeah.
They do have a program where they will donate some of that stuff, but they don't in Canada.
And they also have to be careful about the meth scenario, where if you get a lot of that stuff happening, then I guess it's not as much of a problem with Amazon, because with Amazon you have to have your receipt, whereas with Walmart it's like, oh, this is a Walmart product, we'll take it back.
Yeah, I guess.
They don't track it at the individual item level.
How does that work? Because can't you return Amazon stuff to like Kohl's and some other retail locations?
But you always have to have your receipt and your Amazon account and your password.
Okay.
It's always tied to you as the individual. Maybe that's Walmart's problem. They were too worried that people wouldn't accept the authoritarian big brother, we have to know everything about you in order to do returns. Whereas with Amazon, that's required for doing business.
I bet that's changed at this point, though, right? After that happened.
So maybe we can kill two birds with one stone and convince Walmart to go the Amazon route and just know everything about you. And it's like, here's your Walmart token. This represents you. If your token is ever revoked, you're not welcome at any Walmart premise.
Or turn it into, wasn't there a reality show where they bought the storage containers where people had died,
Oh yeah.
There's like an auction.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Walmart dumpster auction every week on Twitch.
What if we could get the people that lived above the Walmart for years without anybody knowing it to host it?
Oh no, they're probably dead.
Or in jail.
I think drugs were involved, right?
Yeah, it was like they were living in the ceiling over the manager's office for years and no one knew.
It was kind of like a little meth palace.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was probably always complaining to the cleaning crew. He's like, "What is that smell?"
That's just the smell of Walmart.
It kind of is.
It's funny because it's true.
And sad because it's true. Another thing that Amazon is doing that might make some people mad, although a diminishingly small amount of people, it seems, because I don't think I remember when we first talked about the story, I was like, has anybody heard of this? And Krista's into this type of thing because she's an Overwatch junkie. She didn't know anything about it.
This is a rare opportunity. I'll save it for after we do the headline, but this is a rare opportunity for a little bit of introspection.
Okay.
Amazon has canceled Crucible. Yes, you heard right. It has canceled Crucible. It's free-to-play multiplayer shooter that had already been returned to a closed beta. So they released it, and then they unreleased it, and then they had a moment of self-reflection. They looked around, and they were like, you know, with the global situation, with what it is, and all the developers working on this, what are we doing? What are we doing with our lives working on something like this? And then it was over.
What's the introspection?
They had that interest. They had that moment of clarity.
Oh, yeah.
Where they canceled the project.
Now what was their gaming engine? It was like Lumbermill or something like that they were creating. That never went anywhere.
Yeah.
And now they've got Link, which is Luna. It's Luna, which is their version of like the Xbox cloud thing.
They wanted to be the Amazon AWS of like game creation and production, so you could take all this, like what Epic is doing with the Unreal Engine store thing, but on Amazon. And it's like we need to deploy this game to millions of users at once. You just click a few buttons and Amazon's got you covered.
Yeah, I don't know. It's ambitious. They certainly have the infrastructure, but
they looked around and were like, does anybody really need this?
Generally, the thing that gets you there, and I think Stadia is kind of discovering this, is you need first-party titles.
Just because one executive has a vision for Spatula City doesn't mean you should build Spatula City.
So, yeah. We'll see. Google, we hear a lot about the anger of the employees within Google. I think Google was one of the first companies to start hiring very woke. Those people make their opinions known a lot, and that probably isn't the favorite thing of the people in charge, the corporate staff. But it seems that there is one thing at Google that even those people are afraid to say.
Google employees are free to speak up, except on antitrust issues. This article is amazing. It's a New York Times article. There's not really anything new here that we didn't already know, but in the whole gear up to talk about the antitrust stuff, which, by the way, there's a lot of information out there about what William Barr is planning in terms of the antitrust and how they're going to approach it, which is not in this article. I don't know why. But the New York Times talks about how Google...
Well, you answered your own question. It's William Barr, and this is the New York Times. They're bitter enemies.
Again, it's like, can we not have an intelligent... Like, if you're relying on us to have an intelligent conversation about anything, I mean, just... But the DOJ is already... Like, they've already talked a lot about preparing antitrust against Google, and it looks like Google's... I think Amazon is a far better choice, but whatever. All right. And they talk about how Google has already set itself up to try to be... well defended against antitrust type investigations, because whenever they're talking about things like what's going on in the market, what's our competition doing, what can we do to outdo our competition, they'll copy internal Google lawyers and say this is attorney-client privilege, but in a lot of cases it's not. And there have been several cases, like one of the ones this article talked about was in Texas, and the Texas Attorney General, who is now the governor, was trying to get something out of Google, and they eventually just dropped the case because it was just so much work to try to get anywhere with any of that, because they actually did get a couple of the emails that were marked as attorney-client privilege, but they would not actually technically be attorney-client privilege because they weren't emails that were actually seeking legal advice. So,
and maybe the more disturbing thing here was the anecdotes about the employees themselves when it rarely happened, but when someone said the A word, they were descended upon. And it was almost like an Orwellian re-education thing where it's like, Google employees are highly talented and they invite competition in the workplace. And then it's like, the people with their eyes glazed over just repeating that anytime that anything like that came up. They talk about a guy who was applying for a job, mentioned that word, and it went into his file. It's like he mentioned the A word. This one should surprise no one. We knew it was coming, but now that the new iPhone line has been announced, we know for sure that there's one thing that's not going to be in the box.
Apple is now selling a 20-watt USB-C power adapter for $19. So they didn't raise the price on the phones, but did they? Because now you don't get a power brick and you don't really get much of anything.
Also, they point out that this is to reduce waste, e-waste. Somehow you spending the extra 19 to get the thing that you need anyway is going to reduce e-waste. They point out, they're like, listen, everybody's got an iPhone. Everybody who matters has an iPhone. And you've got these chargers because you've already bought 7 iPhones because that's how we do it. You buy one every year. So just use one of those. Except, have they ever done the USB-C version before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On iPads.
But not iPhones.
Well, there are USB-C to Lightning cables.
But
this is USB-C?
It's USB-C to Lightning, yes.
So...
But the old ones were the old style, right? They were like USB-A, weren't they? For a long time.
No, I think you could get either one.
Oh, okay. So anyway, if you don't have that, you buy a new iPhone, you're going to pay an extra $20. Although they did cut the brick price from $29 to $19 because they love you.
But you can get a better, like Anchor sells legit better chargers for less money.
Yeah, that probably will be what happens. Although, no, not with Apple customers. I mean, look, you're already, mortgaging your house to get your Apple order anyway. What's another $19? The Apple issue with the walled garden continues to rage on, and some companies seem to be sort of tiptoeing around it. Going in through the service gate is a way that you might be describing this.
You're talking about Apple not allowing any applications on a phone, really. But, Ars Technica has the headline, the Xbox game streaming will land on iOS in 2021 using a web workaround. It will take the Amazon Luna approach. And next year, Amazon Xbox streaming to Windows 10 PCs. So what Amazon Luna does, which we were talking about a little bit ago, is basically just launch a web control. And in the web control is sophisticated enough to basically do remote desktop type protocols. And so that's how you do it. And that's what Microsoft is going to do. But how insane is it that Apple is saying, oh, if you go through the web browser, that's okay. But if you do it through a native application, that's not okay.
Well, is the web browser going to have the response time and the horsepower?
Because they're using like a WebAssembly client or something is probably not, maybe not WebAssembly, but they're using something that is hardware accelerated in WebGL and blah, blah, blah. It is definitely a performance penalty. It's not as good as native, but it'll be good enough.
I don't know, though. I don't think, well, I don't know. First of all, I don't see paying the penalty just to play those cloud games anyway. It seems like you're adding just more, you're piling it up. The downsides to all of this.
Apple is blinded by their own greed. It's like, you will not be permitted to run arbitrary applications on your phone. It's like, you remember the old Flash games? It's like, you're not going to be permitted to run Flash games on your phone because it requires an app. And it's like, what? For a while, you actually could get a browser that enabled Flash applications to run on iOS devices. I guess this probably runs afoul of that now. They even blocked the Commodore. You could get a Commodore emulator, which is officially sanctioned. And they didn't like it because you could type in basic programs. Like you could run, like the source code for the old Snakes game or something. It's like, I'm going to program in BASIC and be able to run Snakes on the Commodore 64. Initially, Apple was like, no, we're not going to allow this because you could run arbitrary, games on the iPhone. It's like, it's a basic emulator.
You could key in Doom Eternal after several months.
That is so stupid that I think it warrants the death penalty.
Well, AT&T, we've talked a lot about them. AT&T is suffering a lot of cord cutting. Do you call it cord cutting when it's a satellite? Dish cutting? Their DirecTV purchase did not work out. Their HBO stuff is not going great.
I love this because, like, when the purchase was announced and we did the news on that, I literally laid out how this was going to go, and I nailed it.
So, bad news if you work for them.
AT&T plans to lay off thousands of workers at HBO, Warner Brothers, and the rest of WarnerMedia. I'm very sorry if you work there. That's terrible. But if you watch the Level 1 news, I warned you this was happening.
Yeah, cutting costs by 20%. That's a big number.
The article also mentions that Apple has gotten a few nibbles on people to buy its DirecTV, what's left of DirecTV, for about a third of what they paid for it. And if AT&T is smart, they would go ahead and take that.
Yeah, I don't see it increasing.
No.
Over time.
Do you want it to be a fifth of what you paid for it? Because the clock is running, AT&T.
Now, the boards of some other media companies might be looking at this and getting a little come to Jesus moment and saying, oh, maybe we should adapt before the industry destroys us, because our way of doing business might never come back to the way that it was. And the mouse seems to be doing the right thing.
CNBC reports that Disney says its primary focus for entertainment is streaming, and it is announcing a major reorganization. Man, can you imagine if Disney did this restructuring 10 years ago? Like, if they'd realized what was going on, they would already dominate everything.
Well, they kind of are dominating. I mean, Disney Plus is huge.
Well, it's only because they bought literally everybody.
Yeah, but they can do that. And why not? So they are, what was the last movie? Mulan.
Oh, yeah.
Mulan went straight to Disney Plus. Now, we don't know what the numbers were for that yet, but apparently they weren't too bad. They sold that for $30. And parents paid it because the children wouldn't shut up, I'm sure. And so they're saying, all right, theaters, that's a no-go. Maybe someday we'll think about that, but for now, we're putting all the eggs in the Disney Plus basket. And the parks, the parks probably aren't killing it either.
Do you think that the media will become, like, because media is so expensive and we're getting so good with AI now that can read, the books will come back, but by having an entertaining AI reader to read along with you as you do a book, because books are a lot more exciting.
Talk about an infantilized population. Yeah. You're literally being read storybooks by your AI while the world burns around you.
But that is less than paying. I mean, I think that's a better situation than paying $30 for Mulan.
And Netflix is the other big contender in that marketplace. They're kind of the OG. They figured it out first. And for a long time, they were the most generous when it came to trying out their service. You could do that for a month. I said could.
Netflix ends the free trials in the U.S. after years of giving away the first month. For years, Netflix has offered U.S. customers a free month to try out their service, but no longer. And the reason they decided is because you can cancel at any time. So you want to sign up for a week and then cancel after a week? That's totally okay. I guess they got tired of people signing up to watch one show and then canceling.
Pro tip. Gift cards. Only ever do business with Netflix through gift cards. And if you forget, doesn't matter. I canceled my Netflix and I have not missed it at all.
Yeah, Netflix seems like a thing that you would sign up for like 3 months of the year and then watch everything you want to watch and then move on to some other service for 3 months of the year.
Yeah. Be a smart way to do it. Give them rotating. Although they'll probably get hip to that and then they'll start to plan the drop off and the additions to, fight against each other.
We'll end up going right back to one show every week, even though they're all done. One show every week to drip it out to you.
Well, was it HBO who said they would never do the other thing because that's the way it was meant to be?
Was it HBO?
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah. And the pandemic rages on. It doesn't seem like there's any movement. Although we do have the new thing where the one company is saying that they're going to try to do the emergency vaccine thing.
Yeah, and we also have a couple of reported cases of people developing insane complications after the fact. It's like, oh, I had a mild case, and then my spleen exploded.
And reinfections.
Yeah.
If Krista were here, she would give us a lot more of the hot topics there. 'Cause she keeps up with that kind of stuff. She loves to be terrified of it.
I've got enough existential dread as it is. I can't.
You know what? I'm just kind of just hoping for the best at this point. But the tech world continues to, I guess, change the way that everything works based on what's happening.
Dropbox is the latest San Francisco tech company to make remote work permanent. This article goes on to mostly talk about how rent in San Francisco has dropped 20% since the beginning of the global situation, and not really much else about Dropbox.
And they're like, yeah, if you feel like coming into the office, they'll probably clean out a corner for you somewhere. But you know what? Don't bother.
I think it's going to change real estate too, because people are going to want a place that they can go in their house and basically like shut out the insanity of their family and everything else that's also not their bedroom.
Shipping containers are going to just go through the roof.
There are some places that have ordinances against shipping containers in your yard, which is upsetting.
That's one of my favorite things about my house is there's no... I can do whatever I want.
I think that you should go ahead and get some shipping containers on order and just have a standing order for like once every 3 or 6 months, get a shipping container and just build a little wall around your compound out of shipping containers.
There's a guy in Canada, he built an underground bunker out of shipping containers, and they condemned it. They wouldn't let him go down there.
Oh, that's terrible.
Disgusting. Yelp has often been criticized that because of their power, they can destroy a business. And it might not even be because the service is bad. It might just be because a certain group was angered by something that the owner did, or maybe not even the owner.
A little bit mob-esque, because, you know, we've had reports of like, oh, the curry there is terrible, and it's a 1-star review, but it's like, this doesn't seem like it's a real person. And Yelp's like, we'll just make those reviews go to the bottom if you give us money. And it's like, that seems kind of crooked.
And when it comes to the stink of extortion, this one really ramps up the dogma. I can't. This is going to be used incorrectly. It's going to be abused, I guarantee.
The New York Times says that Yelp will mark pages of businesses accused of racist conduct. Surely that won't be weaponized in the same way as your curry is bad.
So now Yelp becomes the gatekeeper of what's racist?
Truly the darkest timeline. Your curry is so bad, you are definitely racist.
Yeah, that's there are going to be a lot more headlines about that. So what happens is when there's an accusation, you get one message on your page, which is enough, right? That's bad enough. But then if they confirm it, and I'm not sure exactly how that works, you get the racist tag, which will be a death sentence for any business.
Yeah. I feel like that there were episodes of Seinfeld about this.
And there's going to be an issue like that guy in Thailand.
Yeah.
Somebody's just going to be, obstinate. They're going to be angry and, start fights or whatever, get an argument with your servers. And the next thing you know, boom, you've got the racist tag. Well, Elizabeth Crazy Eyes Holmes is still in court. And
my favorite story of the day.
She is facing a lot of fraud charges and serious fraud charges because what she did was really bad.
Yeah.
I think it's like 20 years plus millions of dollars plus possible restitutions, which could be in the how many millions?
Hundreds of millions.
A lot of money. And she had a lot to say about those charges, but unfortunately for her, no one's listening.
Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes' scattershot bid to nix charges goes down hard. The Stanford dropout had filed 6 motions to dismiss the charges, and not a one of them stuck. One of them was for not getting a speedy trial, but the judge correctly pointed out, hey, you guys asked for extensions like 12 times.
And that the charges had been amended after the fact, but the judge was like, well, they're basically the same charges. It's just we found more. We found more of things that you did. She looks so wholesome here. Oh, look at her, that little fraudster. I don't think she'll be smiling like that much longer.
No.
You think they give her house arrest?
Yeah.
Probably got a nice house, although she might lose it. Because there's also a civil case.
Yeah.
Well, Twitter did some bad things. Although, to be fair, they did them in 2012. The wheels of justice here.
Washington State seeks $100,000 from Twitter for campaign finance violations. What? From 2012, campaign finance violations. Yeah, this has to do with advertising. Just running ads on the Twitter platform.
Twitter didn't even deny it. They're like, what, 100,000? Yeah, whatever. Get the slush box out. Yeah, the petty cash box. Throw some money at these assholes and get them out of here. So, although they do, Twitter did say that, we don't do political ads anymore. We've learned our lesson. And I think they have more lessons to learn in terms of politics because, oh boy, does Trump hate them. However, Trump might be guilty of his own abuse when it comes to Twitter, although there's no evidence that the Trump campaign was immediately responsible for this. Probably just a troll farm.
I'm surprised the BBC is reporting on this, but it kind of makes sense. Twitter suspends accounts claiming to be black Trump supporters. So the BBC points out that about 10% of black voters are probably going to vote for Trump, but apparently there was some kind of troll farm or botnet or something, so Twitter claims, that was espousing support for the current president. And, Twitter said, nope, these are bots. These aren't real people. Let's ban them. And the BBC wanted more information. Twitter declined to provide more information.
But this is actually a garbage article. So this was a Krista addition to the news. She's the one who sent this to me. Although I lost her link, so I just found this one to replace it. But the one she sent me actually had evidence of the pictures and stuff. There was a lot of dead black soldiers for the profile pictures. And that was kind of disgusting. But yeah, they just went and got professional and or, like these guys were in full military dress. People, black guys that you would think would be like upstanding citizens, they found their pictures and created fake accounts. It was like, I love Trump.
Don't they know that there's an AI that'll just make you all kinds of unique faces at this point? I guess those are easy to detect.
And, but again, this probably, okay, so if you're a troll farm, this may be a little bit meta, but if I'm a troll farm and I'm just trying to sow discord amongst the people, this is a double win for me, right? On one hand, I'm shilling for Trump from the voice of a people who traditionally would not shill for Trump. Like you said, 90% would be no. Then when they find it out, I get another wave of outrage.
Truly, they are playing fourth dimensional chess.
Maybe they're not doing it on purpose, but if they are, you got to tip your hat to them, right?
I didn't think about that at all, but yeah.
And right before the election. Maybe they outed themselves. That would be the ultimate play right there.
It's like this is a move brought to you by Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and it's actually Mothers for Drunk Driving. And it's like, what?
Putin sees that headline and he's just like, ooh, nice.
Our technology has been used to this. It was just, no, this was all a mistake. Turn it off. Let's just go home. This is bad.
Meanwhile, on Facebook, they are facing another wave of misinformation. Like I said, we seem to be, at least the headlines would have you believe, getting closer and closer to a vaccine. And the more we move toward a vaccine, the more controversy will pop up around it.
Facebook bans anti-vaccine ads, but not organic misinformation. I would love it if, Facebook and Twitter had little pop-ups that was like, this person is just stupid. But then they would probably get that wrong sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Most of the time. So, yeah, this is about all kinds of vaccines, but specifically the vid. And I can't remember which company is it that they're doing emergency. I guess if you're really seriously about to die, they can skip all the nonsense and just pop you with their vaccine if you'll have it, which is interesting. Now, we talked about Facebook and the Oculus. So, although it's not the Oculus anymore, they've destroyed that part of the name.
It's the Quest.
But these are VR helmets.
It's the Quest for people's personal information.
When they bought this company, I remember we did that story, and they were like, no, we're going to let them be autonomous. We don't want to take over this. We don't need that. We're just, supporting this amazing new technology. We're investing in it. Well, recently, they announced that if you want to use the new one, guess what you have to have?
A Facebook account.
And so some people obviously bought these devices and didn't have Facebook accounts. So what do you have to do? You have to sign up. but it's not so easy.
Facebook's account verification leaves some Quest 2 buyers with a paperweight. This article cites several people that had trouble signing up for Facebook, including Facebook shutting their account down after an unspecified period of time for being a bot or being automatically generated or not being a real person. Still, other people, their accounts can be locked in limbo waiting for review, but they couldn't actually use their headsets until their account was approved.
Which requires photo identification and can take weeks.
Oops.
Pay how much do those things cost? Like $300-$400?
Yeah, a lot.
Pay $300-$400.
Sounds like a chargeback to me.
You bring it home, and they say no, you may not use it.
Oh, sorry.
And it doesn't even have to be online. That's the sick part. TikTok has been banned in a variety of places. Some for political reasons, and others just because the dregs of humanity seem to be on TikTok. One more can be added to the list.
Pakistan has banned TikTok over immoral and indecent videos. That's really pretty much the entire story. Really what happened is they followed suit because that's what happened in India a couple of weeks ago. And it was like, we got 75 million internet users. We're out. This is, we're just going to block it. So it's blocked.
Immoral and indecent. They're not wrong. And perhaps this story is an excellent illustration of that. Because the thing about TikTok is it's mostly young people, and it feeds that whole addiction thing where it's like, oh, I need to be more popular on TikTok. I'll do anything. Anything. And you get this.
Insider reports that a woman was shot and killed while staging a kidnapping for a TikTok video. So she was 20 years old. She has a 1-year-old son who's going to discover this someday. And that's really sad.
He's going to discover it by watching her old TikToks.
She was shot in the head by one of her friends. It was accidental because they were trying to make a kidnapping TikTok video, but the gun was loaded.
He was not following any of the 4 rules of gun safety, which is why we need to teach those in schools. So here she is. I don't know. I mean, she looks like the kind of gal who would make some really sound future decisions.
She died.
Not impulsive at all. Oh, man. Krista would love those socks. It's a shame she's not here today. That's our last story.
That's our last story, and it's so sad. What's going to be worse is the other kids in school are probably going to find it before the other kid.
Yeah. She had how many followers? Some of those kids are probably following her.
Well, her kid's only 1, so it'll be like 6 years, but yeah.
6. 2, 3 at the most. Although with, she'll have fallen so far out of fashion by that point. And TikTok will have fallen out of fashion by the time those kids get old.
The internet won't exist as we know it today. It'll just be some little... it's like just one webpage.
Well, it would be known as after the fires. I think we should... we've got BC and AD. I think we should have UT. These uncertain times. So next year should be 1 UT.
All right.
We'll see you Friday.
Friday we've got nonsense. You got that to look forward to. So if you're really just experiencing withdrawal, check out the Linode link. All right, we'll see you Friday.